Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. In this video, we're going to take a look at my competition runs from the most recent low-range RC competition. Now, this time they've been implementing more of the Sorka-style rules, so the rules have changed a little bit, and basically, you just need to know they're going to be counting backups, they're going to be counting if you touch your truck at all, and they're going to be counting points against using a winch. Obviously, if you hit cones, then that is points as well. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at these runs and see how it stacked up. I'm going to talk about what I did right and what I did wrong, and just how I was able to snag a third place finish in this competition. So the way they formatted this is there are two courses that everybody got to run, and the top 5 drivers were able to run a final shootout course. We're going to go ahead and take a look at my first 2 runs, and then we're going to look at my shootout course run and see how I did. So one thing I want to mention is the truck that I actually used in this competition, which is the majority of it is an SCX10.2, and it has been upgraded with Rock Pirates RC parts, namely shock towers, rock sliders, servo and winch tray up front, as well as the battery tray. That is all Rock Pirates RC, and those sliders are bent specifically for the Power Wagon body that I am using. So it's got a nice tight fit, and the bottom of them are nice and smooth for sliding right over rocks. Now the rest of the competitors were using mainly flat rail chassis builds. That's what Low Range RC actually focuses on, is building flat rail chassis kits for trucks. And I was out there competing against them with an SCX10.2, and I think I was honestly one of maybe 2 or 3 drivers out of the 12 that were there that was running an actual C-channel chassis, and I was actually able to compete with these guys with this truck with the upgrades from Rock Pirates RC. All right, and here we are getting into course 1, sitting here, and we're going to take off. Now I am going to skip over the boring parts of me just driving between obstacles, so I'm going to kind of focus on just the gates. And quite honestly, looking at this gate number 1 on our first course here, with how off camber it was and just the way it was looking to me, I wasn't even sure if this is going to be possible without a winch. Luckily, the truck got in there and stuck to the rocks, and I was able to get the hook and pull right up over the top. Navigating over to gate 2, this one was an off-camber side hill with a ledge that you had to get up on top of. So the big key factor here is going to be taking the ledge 1 tire at a time while still trying to avoid that cone. Getting as close as I can to it without touching it and not letting my front left tire slip off the ledge. So now we've got 3 tires up. At this point, the truck is kind of getting axled out, and I was able to just sneak in there. Now we're entering this obstacle. When I originally looked at the courses, I was debating whether I should try and put tires on both the right rock and left rock, or just stay on the left rock. So as I drove in here, I tried to have tires on both. Here I am wiggling my steering to try and get my front end settled down to where I need it. However, as I'm trying to turn left and transfer off of that right rock, it's just putting my truck in too much of a bind there and just wasn't able to quite pull it off. So I took a reverse, got back out of there, and then approached it with all 4 tires just on that left rock, sneak the nose through and get extremely close, and I actually end up on my skid plate here because my truck rides pretty low, just like most other competitors at the event. I took a small reverse here just to kind of bump myself through and try and get me a little momentum to try and drag that skid plate over, got through the gate, and we worked towards the next one. Here we are going from one rock to another. It's a big crack right in between them, and you're basically dropping off one ledge on the right side and climbing a ledge on the right side. So that was a pretty interesting one, pretty fun. This one, absolutely looking at it, I knew I was going to have to winch because of the hole on the bottom left. So once I get the front tires up, I knew if I drove any further forward from this, my left tire was going to fall in the hole and the whole truck was going to roll off the left side. So before I get there, I went ahead and took the winch, got the truck strapped to a winch pole here, and then winched up the obstacle, keeping my truck on all 4 tires. I believe the winch was worth 3 points, and hitting a gate is worth 10 points. So any chance you have an opportunity to winch and not hit cones is 100% worth it. Right here, getting as close as I can to that top cone, and the truck starts to slide to the right. After watching this footage, I should have tried to continue driving. There is that rock crack on the right side there, and I think that would have stopped me from sliding into that right side cone. However, I thought I was going to hit it, so I used the old get out the winch trick. So this is a bonus line. Going in here, basically if you get through the gate clean, it's negative 10 points. If you hit the cone but you still make progression, then you're pretty much zeroed out, so not a big deal at all. Here we are moving around to the front of the truck. One thing I want to mention is the way I'm wiggling my steering here. That really helps shift the rear end down the rocks and helps us get my truck where I need it. So that's what I'm doing with that steering there. At this point, the truck is so leaned over that the sidewall is actually on the rocks and the top of the tire is pushing the truck backwards. So I'm trying to move my tires left and right to try and get the forward drive that I need through that crack. I end up clipping the cone, so I just drive on out of there and try and keep it on all fours. One thing to keep in mind here, guys, is that my camera is actually mounted to my controller, so I am competing while recording myself through this course. So if the angles aren't the greatest, I apologize. Ended up clipping a cone going down through there because that crack was just a little too off camber. Shot through that last gate, no problem. This one, after watching the video, I actually got lucky. I came in here and the truck dropped down into that crack. It kind of slid down in there. Whereas other people that kept and maintained traction actually pushed up into that really hard and kind of got their truck stuck. And I watched a lot of people really struggle on that last gate. So at this point, the judge told me that I had 17 seconds left, which was actually incorrect. So I'm really struggling for time here and I really start making bad calls on my driving. I end up winching myself into this rock upside down for a little too far before I finally decide to unhook the winch, and I'm in a major rush because I thought I had 17 seconds to winch my truck up to an obstacle and still get through the gate clean, which is not an easy task. It turns out that I had plenty of time left, but with the judge telling you that, that's really going to throw off your feeling for how the event's going. So here we go, getting really side hill on that one. The front tire was actually able to come up the rock, working our way up. As I look at this footage, I should have been a little bit higher on the left side to get through this gate. That would have helped me stay further away from that bottom cone. The rear end specifically needed to be higher. So I stopped right here and I decided to take a backup to try and avoid it. But when I backed up, something happened with my suspension and my rear tire actually hit that bottom right cone. So I did end up clipping that gate. But that was the end of course one. Pretty fun, very challenging course. I knew that going into it, that it was going to be a very challenging course, and then I was going to be using winching quite a bit on that course. Now, course number 2 didn't look quite as hard, but of course, looks can be deceiving. So let's see how we do here on course number 1. So I was first up on both courses in our group, and on gate number 1 of this course, I didn't know if the truck would be able to come up here and turn right through these cones and get it clean. I didn't think there was enough room to maneuver the truck through there. So I came up with some master plan of driving the nose of the truck all the way to the edge, pulling a winch out, hooking it to the stick, and actually trying to drag the front of the truck across the rocks. So as I'm starting to winch there, wiggling my tires, I end up pulling the truck completely off the rock and killing the gate. And now I'm dangling upside down by my winch, got it unhooked, and had to circle back around because I did not get progression on that, so I had to go through the gate again. This puts the rest of the course under a little more pressure because I felt like I burned a lot of time. It really didn't take all that long, but in the heat of the moment, it felt like an eternity, basically. So gate number 2 was a down, gate number 3 is an up out of a V-crack with a climb at the end of it. This is a cool obstacle, I really liked it. The key to this one is as you get your front tires up, you need your bottom right tire to start climbing up the wall as well. And then the second key to this is trying to keep your truck off of its skid plate once you get to the top. Again, my truck sits pretty low, so it bellies out pretty easily. I was able to get through there, zoom on to the next gate. Here we go, going up this climb, sticking to the left side as tight as I can. There actually is a boundary line for this gate, so you couldn't go too far beyond the gate before you had to start your turn. So I tried to basically shoot straight uphill instead of going sideways through it and then turning around. Here we are getting through gate 5. This is going to set us up for gate 6. Nice little left-hand turn climb there. And now we've got a sharp left-hand turn descent here. The key to this one, there was a ledge on my tires on the left. I tried to get all 4 of my tires down off that ledge because I could actually fit between that ledge and that cone. So I did that with the front and rear. Here we are to the next gate, moving right along. This one was an extreme side hill, and I decided to try and drive forward through it, but the front tires just didn't grab like I was hoping they were, and I ended up having to winch my truck from here. Now you have to be very careful when you're pulling on the winch with your truck in such a precarious situation. I could have easily upset the traction there, and the truck could have rolled down the hill pretty easy. Up and over these rocks, give it some good throttle to make sure we don't get stuck on our skid plate. getting a good close look at how close I got to this cone, but when I asked the judge if I hit it, he said no, that's the judge's call and we're gonna move on. So trying to just snake the rears through, trying to decide whether I want to turn right out of there or left out of there, and then throttle out. Unfortunately ended up on my roof, went ahead and floored it to get myself uprighted, and we worked our way down to the next obstacle. This one could be a little deceiving. The cone way up on that rock on the left makes it seem like you might want to try and get tires up on that ledge, but I decided to try and just sneak on the inside of it and basically just kind of drag my body through there, which ultimately paid off. It worked out pretty well and I got through there pretty clean. Here we are, moving on to gate number 10, which I then realized I accidentally skipped the bonus, which I definitely would have wanted to actually climb the bonus, but I would have ran it out of order and just kind of in the heat of the moment got a little confused. So right there, giving it a little throttle to keep me away from that cone. And now I'm not set up the greatest where my rear tires are placed to try and get up through gate 10. So I'm just trying to creep along. This truck has a Hobbywing Fusion motor in here, so I have really great low speed control. Not so much top end, but the way this truck is moving, I just get the feeling that if I were to continue to try and drive forward, it was gonna rotate and spin to the right and clip the cone. So I took a winch to avoid hitting the cone. So that's the end of course number 2. Now at this point, I would assume I probably ended up somewhere around 6th, just based off of how I was seeing other people doing. And when they announced who were the top 5 drivers, they went from the bottom of the field all the way to the top, and surprisingly, I ended up all the way in 3rd. Now, unfortunately, I was quite a ways behind 2nd place, so I would have to put together a really stellar run to try and catch them, and they would have to have a really bad run for me to be able to catch them. And unfortunately, because he's a better driver in the first place, that's how he got in 2nd place, I was unable to catch him in the shootout course. Although from what I was told, again, this is what I was told, I think I had the best run in the shootout compared to the other drivers. So why don't we jump over to the shootout course and we'll see how we did there. Now, unfortunately, with the scheduling conflict I had to run first on the shootout course and then I had to leave. So I really didn't get to see any other competitors run. So I had to actually find out later how I did. So here we go, uphill, go right hand through that gate, nothing too challenging there. And then we've got a hard left hand up a very steep climb, which I was trying to get a crawl up. Unfortunately, that top driver tire just wasn't quite able to grab a hold of that crack like I wanted. So to save time, I just went ahead and grabbed a reverse, tried that one more time to see if the tires could get it to stick, and it just wasn't happening. And the truck was so steep at this point, I really can't like bump it from where I am. So I went ahead, just called for the winch to get through this gate clean, save some time, and keep moving towards the end because I knew there were very challenging gates beyond gate number 2. So I wanted to keep moving, get the winch pulled back in. Unfortunately here, it took a rollover upside down in some bushes and had to actually touch my truck to roll it back onto its tires. That was a bummer. Here we are navigating some rocks that the course designer stacked to make this gate possible. A little bit light on that front left tire, so I went ahead and just blipped the throttle to get me up onto that rock. Plenty of traction, shot to the top, no problem there. Now we've got a very off-camber, ledgy, hard left turn. Now this one's really tough to navigate. That 4 cone on the bottom side is just a little bit too high on that ledge, and my truck is getting extremely close to those cones. So I was just barely able to get my front tires through, and as my rear tire gets close, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a winch, try and drag the truck back uphill to avoid hitting the cone. Out of camera's view here, I do end up hitting that cone with my back right tire. Although the good news is I'm already back on top of the rock. I never rolled off or anything like that, and I was able to get through the gate. Unfortunately, I did take the gate. Here we are, very steep climb. This is where something like a 12.8-inch wheelbase would have an advantage, is climbing a big ledge like this. Maybe even with just a little momentum I could have gotten it, but I think I did end up on my skid plate pretty hard. Even with a winch, it really had to work hard to drag it up on top of that. Here we are, really glad at how I did under pressure on this obstacle. You had to get your tire placement just right for that climb. And now we've got an off-camber, up ledge climb, which is really tough. Went ahead and took a reverse to just get my tire placement perfect. Want to try and keep that top right tire on top of a small ledge to try and keep the skid plate off the rocks. Got through that clean, no problem. Coming down into this crack, I knew this was going to be challenging. That crack ledge is about 5 to 6 inches tall, and my tires are less than 5 inches tall. So you really had to navigate that well, give it a little bit of throttle, popped right up there, not a problem. Really nailed the line on that. Even watching the video, I was impressed that I got it as good as I did. Right here, I could have driven forward and avoided the reverse, but to avoid wasting time, I backed down it so I could shoot straight back up, gave it a little bit of throttle because I could see that my skid plate was going to be an issue there. Trying to drive around my truck, it's a good thing to know where you're going to belly out, because on obstacles like that, knowing when to hit the throttle is key. There we go, snaked around. Now we're going to go back through that crack, lots of throttle, pop out on the other side. Here we are on gate 10, and I've got like 1 minute and 50 seconds left, so plenty of time, don't need to mess it up, just nice and easy, crawl up through here. Truck's performing great, tires hooking up, and that's the end of the shootout run. So at this point, guys, I had left the competition. I knew that I went into the shootout in 3rd place, again, quite a ways behind 2nd place, and I was actually able to secure a 3rd place finish, which is my first podium finish in a local competition, so that's pretty awesome. Really excited about that. Definitely want to send a big shout out to Rock Pirates RC. They're the guys who pretty much made my truck as competitive as it is. They make awesome performance parts for axial SCX10.2s as well as Element RCs right now as well. And they've got more parts they're dropping continuously. They're really starting to grow as a company, and the guys over there are really awesome and personable. They're a small time shop and they absolutely get out and hit the rocks as much as they can. I really like the guys over at Rock Pirates RC. Second shout out I want to give out is to Sky RC. Cody in St. George has a hobby shop called Sky RC. If you guys are in the area, be sure to stop by and check it out and help support his shop if possible. I would greatly appreciate it. Big thanks to Adam for putting on the comp from Low Range RC. You guys definitely need to check out Low Range RC. I'll link all those guys down below, so be sure to check that out. I'll also have some affiliate links where you can buy some of the upgrades I put on my truck, and it'll help support my channel. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I greatly appreciate it. These are some of my favorite videos to make, and I hope that it shows in the production of these videos. They do take quite a bit of time to put them together, go out and shoot them, try and get it recorded while I'm competing and whatnot. But ultimately, I definitely think it's worth it, and it's a ton of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy seeing the competition scene. If you guys have never been to a competition before, I highly recommend going out and joining the local group. One place to try and find local RC competitions is Facebook in their groups. So that's kind of what I use to try and navigate and find where the local RC comps are happening. Hopefully that helps you guys out. I greatly appreciate it. We will see you in the next one. Keep the rubber side down.